G20, friends, has become now a part of everyday lexicon in India. Today, even you go to a village, people are aware about the acronym, what is the G20. They may not understand the full diplomatic implications, but how G20 has raised the level of aspiration in the country, that is well known. I have seen this happening across India. This week on 17th April, we hosted our 100th meeting. Another 125 meetings are in the pipeline. So throughout this year, we'll be taking these 230 meetings to all parts of the world. Being in the foreign service, I can share with you that this is like an Olympic moment for the Indian diplomacy. This is a high point for our leadership on the world stage. This is a high point for public policy making and showcasing India to the world. As it had been mentioned, G20 is a premier forum for international economic cooperation, comprising of 19 countries and the European Union, which constitute 85% of the global GDP, 75% of the global trade, and 2/3 of the world population. Honorable Minister spoke about the history and the genesis of the G20 summit. The G20 works through 3 tracks. At the core of the G20 negotiations, you have what is called the finance track. The G20 originated as a financial forum, so that still constitutes the, I would say, the main business of the G20. There are 8 items on the agenda of the finance track. When the G20 was elevated to the level of summit in 2008, several items from the socio-economic field were added. And that component is called Sherpa track. There are 13 items on the agenda of Sherpa track. So 13 items on Sherpa track and 8 items on the financial track. That constitutes the core of intergovernmental process. But that is not all. There is a huge engagement of the civil society, and now we have at least 11 engagement groups through which the younger people, the think tanks, the civil society, women, etc. can join the wider deliberative process related to G20. Think tank in India is, as a secretariat, is led by the Observer Research Foundation. So I'm very happy that ORF has decided to collaborate in the policy forum today. And later today, you will be hearing from the chairman of the T20, Ambassador Sujan Chinoy, on more on T20 processes. There are 4 initiatives as well relating to empowerment of women. There is a forum of space economy leaders. There is a forum of chief scientists. Altogether, we have 36 work streams. And believe me, these 36 work streams are so comprehensive that I don't think that any single item from the world affairs is not touched upon by the G20 process. These 36 work streams range from hardcore financial economic issues to digital economy to softer issues touching upon tourism and culture. Friends, our presidency began on 1st December and we will remain president up to 30th November. Thereafter, Brazil takes over from that. The G20 presidency is conducted through a system of Troika. As of now, the Troika consists of Indonesia, India, and Brazil. For the first time in the history of the G20 process, the Troika is representing the developing world, the emerging economies. So that's the historic opportunity for G20 to bring in items and agenda points which were not getting that kind of salience when the leadership was coming from the global north. At the core of our approach towards presidency is signified by our motto, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and today's policy forum revolves around that key concept. One earth, one family, one future. To amplify the voice of the global south, we decided to host a summit of those who are not in the G20. We are very clear, G20 should not be there only for the members of the G20. So India had decided to engage, to consult the wider membership of the international community. And when we conducted this summit of the Global South in January, there were 125 countries represented at head of states, heads of government, and ministers. For the first time, we have got the largest representation of Africa on G20. As you know, it's only South Africa which is official member of the G20, but our presidency has decided to invite several guest countries representing Africa, and they are Mauritius, Egypt, Nigeria, and the African Union represented by Comoros. We are conducting our presidency on the premise of whole of government approach. As there are 36 work streams, you can imagine large number of ministries are involved, at least 20 ministries, and several other government agencies are involved in the G20 process. All states and union territories are involved. The involvement goes down to the municipal level as well. For the first time, the G20 presidency has been elevated to a scale like a national affair. No other presidency was able to do it. Even China was not able to have the meetings in more than 15 cities. Indonesia tried to host these meetings in 25. You will be happy to know India is conducting these 230 meetings in 60 cities and towns. That's a big achievement for the country. Honorable Prime Minister, through the deliberations and directives of the Secretariat, he gave us the key task that let's not keep the G20 limited to Delhi. So diplomacy beyond Delhi, that was the key directive has come from the Prime Minister's the leadership. He tasked us to take these meetings to all parts of the country, all states and union territories. So you might have read that the meetings have taken place in Arunachal Pradesh. Meetings are going to take place in Leh, Srinagar, Lakshadweep, Diu. You think of any interior place where even one small international conference had not taken place. If the G20 is touching the life and the local communities there. So, as the Honorable Prime Minister tasked us to make it People's G20, what we are doing 7 things which other presidency may have done but may not have done at this scale. So what we are doing, we are, as I said, the widest and unprecedented geographical coverage by any diplomatic event. All India approach, and the approach is characterized by the diplomacy does not belong to Delhi, diplomacy beyond Delhi. That's the key feature of our People's G20 approach. Go to even the remotest the locations, energize the engagement and initiative processes to supplement what the presidency would be deliberating upon in the closed door settings, amplify the message of the G20 and make people as part of the G20 deliberative process by organizing side events, study visits, and public forums like this. We are engaged in tourism promotion through curated excursion, and I'm told by the leaders of the tourism industry, for the first time, a diplomatic event is utilized to promote incredible India. We are there, we are involved in the infrastructural development, connectivity, upgradation of connectivity, and promotion of some unknown places to the outside the world. As part of the process, we are creating huge capacity and skilling at the local community level. This task once again came from the Prime Minister himself. He says, please conduct classes for the taxi drivers. Please conduct classes for police officials. Conduct classes for guides. So today, even if you go to small places, you'll find some guides who have been skilled up through the orientation program. The taxis, we have conducted orientation program for the tax. You would not imagine that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would be engaged in those terms at a very grassroots level. We are promoting destinations through promoting crafts, the culture, cuisine, and storytelling about the region. What is the key objective behind all this? We would like to shape global narrative, a global narrative in which India is portrayed positively. When more than 15,000 would have traveled to India this year, they go back with the impression of an India which is a role model for democracy, which would be a role model for digital transformation, would be a role model for women empowerment, role model for an emerging economy. And finally, we would like to, when after 20 years, when G20 meeting would be conducted in India, you would be in important positions. So when you rise and when G20 would be hosted in India after 20 years, or we happen to host events like Olympics, this generation will be future ready to take this kind of responsibility. So that's the key message of the Prime Minister for the younger generation. Thank you very much for giving me.
First of all, my name is Harshit and I am pursuing honors in political science from Kirodimal College. And my question is that since India has given so much of brave questions to what European countries have asked us on our energy imports from Russia, but why India is so hesitant to take tough actions against China, what it is doing in the Indian Ocean region? It is renaming the territories in Arunachal Pradesh and also building so much of infrastructure along the in the disputed territories in India, and also in the Indian Ocean region. If we see that it is building, constructing military installation in the Coco Islands that belongs to Myanmar, and also so much of illegal fishing it is doing. So what the Indian government is currently doing to counter the China that is so-called the elephant in the room?
Well, G20 is about the G20 issues. The bilateral issues are not taken up during the deliberation of the G20 because it's not a forum where peace and security issues are generally discussed. Those issues, I must say that those issues are being discussed through bilateral channels, and you have seen statements coming from the Honorable Foreign Minister from time to time. So those issues, it's not that those issues are not being taken up. Those issues are being taken up vigorously at the bilateral levels. In fact, when we had the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in early March in Delhi, the Foreign Minister of China was here, and our Foreign Minister had an occasion to meet him bilaterally, and all the relevant issues were raised bilaterally with him.
Hello sir, this is Kajal Chaudhary and I am pursuing my political science honors. Sir, this sir. Sir, I am pursuing my political science honors from Indraprasth College for Women, and my question is, what should be India's approach in tackling the areas where continuous tussle are going on, and especially the area where USA and EU are involved, because world is seeing India as a country that can heavily influence the consequences of events which are going on in world arena.
But India has, I would say, uniquely placed as a bridge maker with India's rising profile in the international community and the way we are conducting our affairs. We are better equipped compared to others to make coalitions, to make consensus and create bridges between divisive camps. So I think one of the approach and the way we look at our role is to make bridges and create consensus amongst different camps that we face within the G20.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I think this gives me an opportunity to thank Ambassador Pardeshi for taking time off from his very, very busy schedule, sir, and for joining this conversation. Thank you so much.